Hello everyone. I've been really busy the last few days. I had a lot of responses to Letecia's letter to the judge, but on top of that, I've also received lots of communications in the past few weeks, I'd say, from people that are close to Letecia, and even had some messages forwarded from Letecia, and they seem to be in line with what's being reported by other YouTubers and reporters who have also been contacted by Letecia. So it appears there's a common theme in all of these communications, and because of things that were brought up in the letter to the judge, I also decided to take a closer look at the timeline just to try to get a new sense of things, looking at it, I guess, in hindsight, I suppose. I think I'll start this by first talking on the letters that Letecia wrote to the judge. And I watched Crime Talk, and I read several news articles, and also did a little bit of poking around and research on my own to find out what this could possibly mean. Basically, it won't mean anything until during the trial. We don't know what could happen at trial and whether the letter's even going to be brought up at trial. We don't know whether Letecia's going to testify on her own behalf or anything like that. So essentially, having a defendant write a letter to the court is alarming for their attorneys, because that makes the letter available to the prosecution and the defense and the courts, and they're public record now, and they can be called into court. They can be brought up there. They can ask the defendant about them. You know, you're not supposed to lie on the stand. So that could be a problem for the defense anyway. It wouldn't be a bad thing for the defense if the letter made her seem delusional. They were going for an incompetency or, insanity defense. But she does not appear to be delusional. Maybe a bit odd, but she does not appear to be delusional. She seems to be operating at full capacity. She knows what's going on. She wants to be an active part of her defense. She's got a lot of complaints about her lack of access, I guess, to her defense team and to the records, but it's not saying she doesn't have any access. You can't always get everything that you want. And so this might not be a point at all if it can be shown that she has not been denied a defense anyway. And it turns out that while she is saying that her restraints are too tight and they hurt her, there isn't any proof that this is excessive, especially if the reported escape attempt in Kansas, where she got out of restraints and attacked a guard, if that also is brought up, that just kind of shows that they're just being cautious, and threats of being poisoned and being harmed by other inmates. There's a hierarchy. Crimes against children, those inmates are at the bottom rung, and you can't really expect to be safe if you're charged with crimes against children. So, in a nutshell, the letter to the judge brings things out into the open. It is going to be available to be used in court, but it doesn't mean that anything's going to happen with that. It might open the door to other things later on down the line, but we don't need to worry about that right now. It's not going to affect anything before trial. I've gotten the information, and so have a lot of other people, that Letecia is saying that Al is a serial adulterer and that she did not take Al from Landon, that Al and Landon were already separated due to Al having an affair with a secretary at the high school back there, and Letecia saying that she and Landon were friends and they remained friends, and that Landon had been warning her that Al was no good and that Letecia shouldn't go for it, that he would just hurt her in the end, and that Letecia's sorry now that she didn't listen to Landon. Other things that have come up and been sent on to me about Letecia, or were in other ways the information was given to me, that the French bulldog named Sadie had been purchased to be an emotional support animal for Letecia, and the DHS records that we were seeing somewhere in the court documents, that those weren't about Letecia, that she claims that those were about Al, and that she lied for him to DHS, and that he had told DHS that he doesn't drink and that he does, etc. There was a lot of information coming to me that's kind of anti-Al, obviously, from the Letecia camp. It appears that Letecia has evidence on her phones. It says that there are 2 phones, and that I guess they're both in the hands of the prosecution. But she's saying that the evidence of those phones are going to prove her innocence and will shed light on what she says that she'd been documenting, which was basically bad things about her husband. And I'm not going to get into saying what all has been passed on to me about that. If there's any shred of truth to any of it, it's definitely going to come out in court. It's also become to my attention that Letecia would like people to stop harassing her family members. She says her family members are innocent, and she especially wants people to leave Harley alone. Letecia has also gone on to say that someone named Angel has proof that the evidence in the bedroom was there or happened while Letecia was in the Bahamas, and that Angel texted photos to Letecia of the bedroom along with details of what had happened there. And so she said that that negates, I guess, the prosecution's information about the bedroom. Their probable cause affidavit that we read is a theory that they had at the time of what went on, and we don't know how their theory may have changed now that they've gotten different evidence and different things analyzed, etc. But, that's interesting. And I did some digging around, fact-checking myself, because some people have been asking whether Letecia was just an aide when she worked at the schools here. And I went and checked it out, and she was always a teacher, not an aide, here in Colorado. She got her certification to teach here in Colorado in 2019. She worked for the Widefield School District as a substitute teacher, not an aide, from March through May of 2019. And then she became a regular teacher at French Elementary School, and she worked there from August until November of 2019. And she left employment due to her resigning in November. And I have not been able to dig up what the reason for her resigning was. And then her last job was the one where she was only employed for 3 days while she was being trained at a District 20 school. And her first day there was the 22nd of January, where she was doing an orientation training. And it was a 3-day training program. Her last day there was on Friday. And I do know that they terminated her due to inconsistencies in her job application. But I do not know at what point Letecia was told that she'd been terminated. That's going to be a point that comes up when I go over the timeline, which I will do in just a moment as I peek at my notes here and see if there was anything else I was going to talk to you about these different communications that I have received regarding Letecia and what is going on with her right now. Other things were that she did know that Al was having an affair with someone named Heather, and that any revenge that she had planned on Al wasn't what anybody else thought it was. Her plan was to get the kids to Landon and for Landon to get custody, because she said that there's something between Al and Landon where Al doesn't want Landon to have the kids, and so Letecia thought that the best way would be to get the kids back to Landon. And I also have found out that Letecia was on the Ensure, not because of her nerves or anything, but because There were threats that her food was going to get poisoned. She was drinking Ensure instead of eating the food. And it's also been brought to my attention that Letecia does have a theory about who is responsible. She is saying that it'll all come out at trial. I suppose to some people she has actually named names, but they're not going to name them at this point because they need to check with their own legal teams before they can go public with anything like that. Another thing that came up is that Letecia has been trying to, I guess, fix some of the misinformation, as she calls it, that's out there. She says that what is being reported as being Eduardo is Eduardo, which is a nickname for someone that is named Edgar, and she says that Al knows who he is and that she has proof. She's also mentioned something about a cruise out of Florida and that something happened with Al on that cruise and that that's going to come out also. And finally, she had a message directly for some people that went forward on to me, and basically she's just saying that she's not going to hold back the information any longer. She's innocent and they'll see, and that it's all going to come out at trial. And I'm not going to name their names either because I don't want people getting harassed just because they at one point had affiliation with Letecia. And now, with all of this information, all of the tea spilling, I decided to go back and look again and make a very abbreviated timeline of events. And I see that Letecia received her Colorado teaching license in March of 2019. That's what I forgot to tell you guys. And then it's been reported from all these different people that Letecia is saying that something significant happened on January 20th. And I haven't been able to figure out what that is yet, but it was January 20th, which was a Monday. Then January 22nd was Letecia's first day at District 20. January 24th was her last day at District 20. January 25th, Al spent the night in Denver, and a lot of different sources are saying that he spent the night in Denver with his girlfriend, who is his current girlfriend, and that was before he took his flight out on Sunday to go to his training, which I believe was in Oklahoma. So on Sunday the 26th, Al flew to his training, and Letecia took the kids on a hike to Garden of the Gods, and if I remember right, Harley wasn't with them, she was at work. Anyway, then that night, Letecia texted Al telling him that Gannon was having stomach trouble. Then on the 27th, which was Monday, at 4:37 in the morning, Letecia contacted District 20 and said that she would not be in. And if I remember right, she said it was because her stepdad had been killed in a hit-and-run accident or something like that, which had actually happened years before that. She also contacted Gannon's school, saying that he was going to be out sick. Between 8:13 and 8:17, she took pictures of Gannon in his bed and sent them to Al. And then at 9:56, she locked her phone, or one of her phones, because I've been told by several different people that Letecia had two phones, which I don't know if this is actually referring to Letecia actually having two phones, or if the second phone is in fact Gannon's phone, which from reading the arrest affidavit, I believe it is the name of the document that I'm talking about. But in that document, it's mentioned that Gannon's phone showed activity that indicated to them that it was Letecia and not Gannon using that phone. So I'm not sure whether she actually had two phones that were dedicated to her, or she had one phone that was in her name and one phone in Gannon. Anyway, and then on the 27th at 10:16, it's reported that Letecia and Gannon left the house and they were seen on neighbors' surveillance. We see Gannon drop something and Letecia picks it up. What I don't know for sure is whether this has been verified as being that day. Timestamps and stuff I know can be wrong, as you guys saw one of my videos that was recent, and the timestamp is from some time ago because I didn't change the timestamp on my camera. So I'm not really sure of the actual timeline of when was the last time anyone actually saw Gannon. Then at 11:22 on the 27th, Letecia was seen at Petco. Gannon was not visible. 12:06, Al texted Gannon, and there was no reply. At 1:21, there was a reply from Gannon's phone to Al saying, "Can I play Zelda at least?" And at 1:22, Letecia was seen checking out at Petco again. At 1:43, there was a search on Gannon's phone saying, "Can my parent find my cell phone if it is off?" 2:19, on the 27th, Letecia returned home. Law enforcement said that Gannon likely returned as well. Once again, there is no confirmed video footage that I know of showing Gannon getting out of a vehicle at that time. I also don't know if the video footage of Letecia around that time, if they have it from more than one source, if they have several videos with timestamps or anything like that. 2:45, Letecia's phone was unlocked. At 3:15, Lena arrived home, and then Lena went outside and was riding her bicycle. At 4:42, Harley arrived home, and then the two of them went to the dollar store and were home by around 5:30. At 6:55, Letecia called the police and reported Gannon as a runaway. Then at 10:09 p.m., the deputies arrived and they did a search of the house and the yard looking for Gannon. On the 28th of January, which was Tuesday, at 8:17 in the morning, Letecia used Priceline to find a rental car. At 8:30 a.m., she parked her Tiguan in the airport parking lot and she rented the Kia. At 8:50, she picked up Al and drove him to the house. At 12:57, she Googled, "Can Nintendo find my Switch?" At 7:02 p.m., her Tiguan left the airport. At 8:08, the Tiguan was at a King Super, which is a supermarket, and it sat there for 10 minutes. Between 8:30 and 10:20, the Tiguan was in the northwest of Colorado Springs, and in that time frame between 9:15 and 9:30, it was specifically in the South Perry Park Road area. Also on that date, Al consented to a search of the house, and Letecia has said that on January 28th, Al made false statements to police that her Tiguan had fictitious plates. And I remember that they were looking for the car around French school. Then, January 29th, which was Wednesday, at 9 a.m., the Kia was returned, and it was muddy. It had 71 miles put on it. At 11:30, the Tiguan was seen at a car wash, and at 12 p.m., Letecia had her police interview. During that interview, she mentioned the story of Eduardo, which she has now clarified is Edguardo, Edguardo, and that his real name is Edgar. And Letecia stated that she tried to speak to Landon at the house on the 29th, but that Al would not let them be alone. So, I don't know if there's any way to verify that unless somebody knows Landon, but I really wouldn't want to bother Landon. She's been through so much, it wouldn't be right. Anyway, on January 30th, which was Thursday, at 1:45, Letecia and Harley were met by detectives over at Marshall's, and the VW Jetta, which had been designated as Harley's vehicle, but I believe Al actually owned it. The VW Jetta was taken by police. And also on that day, after that happened, a Nissan Altima was rented for Letecia's use. Then on January 31st, which was Friday, Letecia and her family members gathered hers and Harley's belongings up at the house, and after they packed up and were leaving the area, they stopped and Letecia did an interview with Spencer Wilson, and that's the one where she had her back to the camera. And as far as I know, it's her only on-camera interview. And he says that they had a moving truck and a small car. Then on February 5th, District Attorney Dan May was seen at the Stauch home for the first time. On February 13th, the search moved up to the Douglas County area. And on February 15th, that piece of particle board with what turned out to be Gannon's blood on it, Gannon's DNA, was found out on that South Perry Park Road. Then on February 28th, the probable cause affidavit was filed, and on March 2nd, Letecia was arrested. So I'm very curious to hear anybody's thoughts and possibilities of what the actual time frame could be, if it's different from what we were originally told, and what anybody makes of the timeline and the comment that Letecia made to the judge about how she doesn't think that El Paso County has the jurisdiction. Where do you think that jurisdiction is? Thank you for watching Another Day in the Car with JuleZ. Okay, here we go again. Okay. Oops, can't say that word. There was